evening, everybody. I'm your host, Joe Cruz. This is another edition of Born Political. I've been off a few weeks. We had guests every single week leading up to the election. The election is over. I'm sure I know how happy I am. I'm sure people in the listening audience are extremely happy. And we'll take a few seconds to think about our friends in Georgia that have to do this still until December 6th. Hopefully they end up enjoying their Christmas. I hope you guys had a chance to enjoy your holidays. I know I had a great Thanksgiving, and it's by the looks of Facebook, it looked like a lot of people did. So I hope you were one of those folks that had a good time. Today, we're interviewing our third town councilor. We had Mayor Melendez on. Councilor Franco's been on a couple times, first about her and then about the beautification work that she was doing. But this is the third councilor, and I want to go right through the whole council and get everybody on and get their chance on here. Today, we have a very interesting guest. You may or may not know him. He is your town councilor, so hopefully you do, but that doesn't usually mean much. A lot of people didn't know who I was after all the years in politics. But Bruce Jones, we're going to get to know him today. Bruce, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Joe.
How you doing? How were your holidays?
They were
good?
great. We were great. I went back up to Massachusetts, so we had a little family dinner with a sister from California and a sister in Massachusetts, and we came and daughter came, and so
that's awesome.
It was good. All good.
And the show is about being, it's called Born Political, but off the air I told you, it's not this red meat show where we attack and go. And although the title suggests nowadays that it would be something like that, it's really more about of meeting people, the people who to me are making decisions. You're a town councilor who, when you vote, you're speaking for 40,000 people. And I know that there is some weight and some impact, and most people don't know what that feels like unless they've been there.
Right.
Now you've been there, and you know that when you're making a decision, sometimes you have to answer for those decisions at the supermarket or wherever you are in
or
town,
wherever we are,
or your neighbor. Right?
Yeah. I've kind of learned that there are no non-council conversations. Whether I'm out in the woods, and I do a lot of trails work, so I'm out in the woods all the time, or wherever I am. Every conversation is a council conversation in some way. Yep.
So Bruce Jones, Bruce Jones is a guy that a lot of people I interview were born and raised in Groton and New London because we're all from here and don't leave. We got lucky to be born in this place that we love so much. But you took a little different path. Where'd you start
so
off?
grew up in Easton, Massachusetts, which is on the south side of Boston, South Shore of Boston, and went to college at Bridgewater and then University of Lowell, and now it's part of the UMass system.
Yep.
Lived in Cambridge after college, and then met my wife there. Now my wife, met her in Cambridge, and we raised our family in Norwood, Mass., which is on the south side of Boston, kind of as you go up Route 1, it's Attleboro, Foxborough, where the Patriots are.
I know where Norwood is because I discovered it. It's not like I'm Christopher Columbus. I'm not the first guy to discover Norwood. But when my wife and I discovered it that day where we just happened to get off the highway looking for a place to eat, we fell in love with it. And I talked to you a little bit about it.
Yeah, it was a wonderful place to raise our kids. We lived there for 23 years and raised two daughters, so Isabel and Heather. And they had a great education and it's a great community town, a real family town, an Irish town. It's one of the places that a lot of the Irish immigrants, when they came to the United States,
40% Irish. That's why I fit in so well.
They came to Norwood. So
if I want to go back in time a little bit. So you went to elementary school at the same. You were in Easton.
I went to elementary school in Easton, and then for high school I went to Coyle and Cassidy, which is a Catholic high school in Taunton.
Yeah.
And then from there, Bridgewater State College at the time, now university, 2 years there, and then went to Lowell, transferred up to Lowell, which is up near New Hampshire.
And then you have, again, I think being born political has a lot to do with your family and family surroundings.
Right.
I was a middle child with a family of three.
Right. So I'm the oldest. There are four sisters right behind me. We're all kind of 1 year apart. And
senior member. That is a definitely qualifying position.
In my household, so I'm the oldest, my wife is the oldest, and we had, two daughters, so one of those is the oldest. So we had three oldest people living in the same house.
Butt heads much?
Little butt, sometimes.
No, yeah. So now you're the oldest brother. And what's the age gap between you and the youngest?
We're basically 1 year apart. So
you are Irish.
Yeah. my mother called it Catholic marriage with no birth control.
Yeah.
So I'm a December, then there's a January, then there's a March, then there's a June, and then there's a little gap, and then there's a November. So
there was a point in time where all of you were in high school together, in a four-year school.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really happen a lot. You have siblings we have someone in our family who just had a baby, and the oldest is 14. And I'm like, what a gap. Like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is a different relationship.
It's amazing when you talk to us though, because we're not that far apart in age, but we have led really different lives.
Yeah.
I remember those conversations you have after, like, I remember my mother died. You have that conversation that night of the close part of the family, and we were just talking about what our lives were like with our parents when they were alive, and it's like I did this. You went on vacations? Like, they couldn't go on vacations because there were 5 of us, but once maybe 3 were gone, now they could afford to take 2 on vacation. So
So you didn't get the
I
vacation,
didn't get
Bruce.
those vacations.
Is that why you're the world traveler now? You feel like you're trying to catch up to your sisters?
I just love traveling. Everybody in my family travels. All of us travel. It's just, I think.
Is that something you got from your? Well, you didn't get it from your parents because you never went on vacation with them.
Our vacations were close. They were like to the Cape and places. I think my parents always they weren't travelers, but they did have a world view. They liked to look out to the world.
Yeah.
And I've always traveled. Next year we've done 49 states. My wife and I have both done 49 states. We
Drove through or stayed
drove
in?
through.
Yeah.
We've Hawaii we had to fly there, but all the rest of them we have driven through. And
So was Alaska the last one? Or
Alaska's the last one. So we have finally, COVID sort of pushed the Alaska part out. So we're going to do it in June. We have a trip booked for
June
Alaska.
is a good time of year to go to Alaska,
Yeah.
from what I hear.
So
you probably don't want to be there and right about now and for the next few months. It's probably not that nice.
But we just, and we put the travel bug into our kids, so they
Yeah.
travel all the time too. They love going different places. So.
So your sisters, you guys, I know we talk off air because and I saw you at the spot. So
We were there last night.
Anyone's looking to find Joe Dela Cruz or even possibly Council Jones. We do frequent the eating establishments. We have a lot of great ones in Groton.
Excellent,
And I saw you last night having dinner with your wife, and I had my grandson. That's why I asked you to be on the show tonight. So I'm so glad that you are offering to come on. It's been great already. I'm already loving the conversation. So now you've graduated and you've done your college. You met your wife.
Yep.
And what brings you down into the little town of Groton here?
So we came. Basically, I did my whole career. Most of it was in Norwood or Boston, where I had an office. I was a graphic designer, and retired at 60. And then, what are we going to do next? So that's when we did the bulk of the traveling. A big of the states we did after I retired. We sold our house and put all our goods into storage, and then we drove around the country. My wife said, "What are we going to do?" We said, "You always liked Lewis and Clark." So I was like, let's do the Lewis and Clark Trail. So we drove to St. Louis and then went up the Missouri River, all the way along the Lewis and Clark Trail to the Pacific, and then we went up and down and back and forth. And both of us had done other trips. We'd taken the kids to Grand Canyon and lots of places, but that sort of pulled a whole bunch of the states in. And then it was, my wife's parents are getting older, so we were like, we had gone through the journey with both my parents. It was like, okay, kid support of older parents is really important. So they come here to Stonington in the summertime. And so we said, all right, let's come down here. So we looked all around sort of eastern Connecticut of where to live, starting at the Mass border. I think we visited 100 homes by the time we were done. We went some before that we left on our trip, and then some 50 after our trip. And it just we realized you can't be, a half hour away is a half hour away or an hour away. So you've got to be close.
Gotta be.
So we kind of narrowed in on Groton, and Groton had basically the same tax rate as Norwood did.
Yep.
It was basically the same. Kind of similar. Norwood's 30,000, Groton was 40,000, but it's not that, it's an old mill town, there's a lot of industry, it's not that different a town.
Yep.
A family kind of town. And so I said, all right, I can afford what I was paying in taxes there, because here we have a lot of industry that helps the tax rate.
Yep.
The surrounding towns, which are beautiful but are very rural, have much higher taxes.
Yep.
So it was like, okay, you can control your house costs, but you can't control your taxes.
So what's interesting to me is I have friends that obviously, and being in the union and being from Connecticut, and people that lived here their whole life, what they think they want is to be sitting on the beach every day, all day, and they find themselves locating themselves in Florida somewhere, and they go down, and I think the biggest mistake people do is just go down and buy a house.
Right.
Because what you did, to me, although the process took longer, imagine just dropping down here and saying, okay, I'm going to buy a house in Norwich, and you buy it, and you came from wherever, what side of the country, and although Norwich has great qualities and it may be beautiful, by the time you get there, you say, you know what? a better fit for me would have been New London. It's closer to the water.
Right.
It's closer
Right.
to, maybe it's the bowling alley. I'm a bowler, right?
Well, we
But
did-
you should live somewhere
Yeah.
a little bit and really find out about a town and towns before
Yeah.
you move somewhere.
Well, we also didn't realize, and I say this to people, is that one of the benefits of Groton is a regular person with a regular job can get a decent house here and be close to the water, and to great conservation lands, and to other things, and be, shooting distance to Boston, shooting distance to New York. And we found ourselves personally in the first couple of years, because we love to walk, and we have just great trails here to walk all over the place, Bluff Point and
Oh, yeah.
Haley Farm, and it's just great. We're like, how did we end up here? Like, it was like, how did we end up in a place that has so much beautiful land that you can be out on, in a very nice town with nice people, great service. I mean, we just got voted our Thrive 55 Senior Center is one of the top 5 in the country.
Oh, Mary Jo, she was on the show.
It's one of the top 5. I mean, because we have all these services that we have here that they're like, we actually landed in a really, really good spot.
But I think a lot of it, though, and what if there's any good thing that Groton we could mention out of this is, here's someone that traveled many different places.
Yeah, I've been
and although
all
you
over
wanted to be close to your parents, and that made it,
yeah.
or your in-laws, and that
Yeah,
made it
yeah.
home down to this area. Out of all the towns and choices you had, you did pick Groton.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, it's not strangely. People say it had to do with taxes, but no matter, and being a counselor now, no matter where you live or what town you're in, people are going to complain about the taxes.
Right.
But for someone that's come from other towns and traveled, you realize that
This is
although
pretty good.
it's
well,
kind of
one of the things we realized, and we had this thought in the first year, because we had, in our travels, we went to a lot of national parks. So we did the Lewis and Clark Trail, visited all the info centers and all these cool things. But if there's a national park, we went. We realized as we're walking like through Bluff Point, we have our own mini national park here.
Oh, we do.
It has water, marshes, rocks, cool trees, great trails. Like everything that you take in a national park that you love when you're in them, you just condensed it down into like this small thing.
And then to me,
we
there's
have
something
that.
about being at the
Yeah.
end of that point and looking, saying, okay, once I go through that, once I go south of Fisher's Island, next stop's
Yeah.
England. Like, or yeah, once I'm on the other side.
right.
And there's something about being on the edge of something that to me gives me the.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know it's not. There's no claustrophobia living around here.
No,
You can
no.
step outside and look anywhere. They said we don't have the sunsets because we're on the East Coast, but I do challenge anyone to. I'll put
I've
on
lived in
sunsets
I've
because
lived in
anywhere.
in the 80s. I lived in San Francisco, and you felt San Francisco is a peninsula, and you feel that claustrophobia because there's the water at the edge. You can't. Like I didn't have a car, so I was just I relied on buses and trolleys and stuff. You feel that claustrophobia. Like I can't go anywhere because you run into the water. You don't have that feeling here because we're in a good place. So I think this became a great place for all the services that we have. Nice people, it's easy to get places. We don't have huge, what was happening in Massachusetts and is continuing is the population is just increasing, and the traffic is way higher. We have, it's much
I have
here.
people
Yeah.
complain about traffic here at the end of the day. And we don't really, I don't think we really know what traffic is. I mean, when EB gets out, they say, oh my gosh, it takes me 10 minutes to get from EB to the highway. And anyone that's lived or been anywhere else understands that 10 minutes is
You might be 10 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
I've lived in Cambridge, Mass, and it's 10 minutes all the time.
Yeah,
It's
no matter
always 10 minutes.
Every mile is 10
Every
minutes.
mile is 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
that's
just
definitely not
there.
the case here.
Yeah.
But we skipped a little bit because normally I talk about what you did for your job and graphic designer. So did you go to school for it?
I went to school for art,
Yep.
and I worked 10 years in different jobs, until I was like 30, and then I decided to go off on my own. I got fired from my job, as everybody does, and I said, I'm
Yep.
never going to go back into a corporate world.
Yep.
And I said, what can I do? I can do art. So I just decided to start. And so I started as a graphic designer. I started originally as an illustrator, but illustration is really hard, and I wasn't that good at it.
No.
But, but it's a tool in your toolbox, so you
Yep.
can use it if you need it.
Yep.
But everybody wants you to lay something out, like make the stationery, make the postcard, make the brochure.
Yep.
So I just started learning, and there was a great bookstore in Harvard Square called Wordsworth Books. It's no longer there, but it was had a great graphic design, a great art aisle. And I would get a little job, make a little postcard, and I would go to the aisle at the Wordsworth, and I'd sit there and I'd read the books. And I'd go, how do I do this? I'd read through,
Yep.
and then go back and I do it. And people give you the projects at the level they feel you're at.
Yep.
So you gradually just keep growing, and you get a little more, and you get a little more complicated, and a little bigger project, and I just kept at it. And I was one of the first when computers came into graphic arts with page layout and all that stuff. I was one of the first in New England to jump on that, and that really accelerated me learning those skills, those computer skills.
That's awesome.
Where before that it was paste up, and
I think
type.
even you saying that you got an arts degree, and what's to me almost sad in our society now, and I get, especially being in the industry and being so close to Electric Boat, we're actually encouraging kids in America to bypass college altogether because you can go be a plumber or an electrician, and I think it's the wrong message to me. Because when you're laying in a hospital bed, I'm 51, and any day that could happen, right? You dance the wrong way, and that could happen. But you're gonna hope, and I hope for the people in the future, 20 years down the line, that we're not wishing that we paid for people to go to school for nursing, to go to school for those, the extra degreed items. That I think we're telling all of our kids now to avoid, post high school education. And again, I agree. We need a lot of welders, and we need plumbers, we need electricians. Right. But we get on a kick in America. And when someone says they went to school for art, that comes with sometimes a negative connotation. But
right.
How are you going to make a living here?
Yeah.
And you made a living, and we know it's not the easiest living to make.
Oh yeah,
and
no,
it's difficult.
But the other thing that happens is that the graphic design skill, and I say this to students all the time and people that I talk to, and I was on for a long time at LaSalle College, I was on the board of advisors at LaSalle in the design department. I said the graphic design skill set is a perfect skill set for the internet age. Because if you have an entrepreneurial bent or you want to make products, this is what I did. I made books, I made products, I made things, that's the skill set that just fits perfectly into the web. So you know how to make the graphics, you know how to do the websites, you know how to do all that stuff. Or you learn how to do it because it's part of the job that you're doing. You have to design websites. You have to do, make PDF files. You have to make, all that stuff just
and
gets translated.
And you got to use your art too.
And you have to use the art.
I feel like if you went to college for something, it's probably because you had a passion.
Yeah.
Right. And again, if someone was going in for art, I think the first thing mom and dad would say was, "Oh no, not art," because what could you do with art? And you have to look at the big picture, because it doesn't mean that you're going to use art. Or you're the actual guy that's going to be on the show and showing people how to paint. Yeah. You transversed it into a different. Right.
I took the arts and translated them into a design field and then used them to do. And so my design career I had a fabulous career. I did it for 30 years. Yep. I did, I think something like, I've counted out like 8,000 different projects. Wow. So I've done everything from the business cards to, at the latter part of my career, I was doing large murals in the Boston Hospital, so inside of Mass General, Children's Hospital, awesome. Brigham and Women's Hospital, large murals telling the story.
So I've been in Brigham's. I've been around. I mean, we all have, right? We all have relatives that are sick, or we've been sick ourselves. So we could have been walking by one of your works.
If you ate a meal at Mass General, you walked in the hallway that had I wrapped an entire hallway, 270-foot hallway with graphics that went around it.
That's
if
awesome.
your kid had cancer, which is a horrible thing to happen, but Mass General has a fabulous cancer hospital for children. It's just amazing. They have a huge long-term relationship with the Boston Marathon. It's gone on for probably now it's almost 25 years they had it. One of the largest fundraising parts of the marathon is what they do with Mass General. So they hired me to tell the story of their relationship with the Boston Marathon. So we took a hallway in the children's part of I didn't even know there was a children's hospital at Mass General, and explained, like, here's the map, here's the race, here's the fundraising, here's the people, here's the kids.
And what level is that? Now, this is where a sixth grader would be able to understand it?
And they might. It's one of the things we did in the hallway is we put a mini marathon. We put a start and finish line. So
my wife has a mural idea for Groton, so now that because she thinks that there should be one really nice wall,
it can
like
be many,
along Route 1
many,
where you tell the story of Groton, where you started from the Revolution to all the way to where we are now. But you know what's so interesting, I think, is here you are a counselor, and we have a pretty good relationship, and we talk all the time. Yeah. And usually it's about the business at hand, whether it's what the state's doing for dollars or but that's been our relationship. And most people at home just know you because you might have knocked on their door. Right. But they have no idea of the things that you've done that they may have seen. Right. And I think the separation of, we talk about 6 degrees of separation, how you could be related to someone that knew somebody and how close we are. But when you really think of the impact that someone's had on the world that you might have read or saw or walked by or used, or I'm a construction guy. I might have did duct work in the OR that you had a surgery in.
Right.
And
Right.
it's those kind of connections
it
that
was,
are unreal.
I worked on a project at Mass General that had to do with it was the translation. What was the department? It was the translation, the bookstore, and the volunteers, and the information desk. So I said, I need to understand. So all those came under one umbrella department. And they said, we need to have a graphic in the department highlighting it. And I said, well, I need to live a little bit in those people's shoes, so I can understand what they're doing. So they had me spend a part of a day. So we took the day, divided it into 4 pieces, and I spent a day in each section. So I was in the volunteer section. I went around with volunteers, and then I went in the translation section. Then I went is the information section, and the information was the front desk. And so the way they explained it to me is it says the front desk at Mass General. So the white building at Mass General is the main building. 60,000 people every day come in through that lobby. You sit in that lobby, you cannot believe how many people.
Oh, yeah.
It's 60,000 people, right?
Yep.
And they'll say, this is the very worst day of most people's lives that come into this desk.
Yep.
And so they had me stand behind the information desk, and people would come up to the desk, and they'd go, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I don't know anything. All I have is this name. And they would, within 30 seconds, get that person to the right place and take them there.
Great.
And you were like, oh, this is a horrible day for this person. They've come to see their loved one to do something, something wrong.
Yep.
And it'd be like, and they just, the care. And so what they had inside of Mass General was all the management, which never get to talk to a patient because they're all up, doctors driving different departments and that kind of stuff. They had a program where they put those people on this information desk.
Yep.
And it was like a goal, I got to be on the information desk. Because the closer they can get to a patient, the more they feel they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And
it
to
was
me,
just
when
incredible.
You can be even a part of that. I wish everyone had the opportunity to walk in other people's shoes, because all you normally hear from a regular, and you hear over and over again, I'm a construction worker, and someone say, I wish I just flipped hamburgers for a living. That's so easy. Until you go flip hamburgers for a living. Yeah. Until I wish I was a painter. Because every single job comes with some weird stress or something that just makes you have to overcome something. But I don't want to walk away, because time-wise, we're almost done. You have a book on the table, and so not only you done what you've done, but you've also written how many books?
50 books.
50. We have an author. I don't know if this is my first author. I don't want to say, because we've had a lot of people, but.
So I just brought a couple of them just because they're in all different areas, and the graphic design skills definitely, you'll see, it definitely helped me. So this was the first real book I produced. I did one long before, but this is the first real one. So this was just me documenting you can see, it's just a book of essential chords. It took me about 8 years to learn to play guitar, mandolin, ukulele, and banjo. Yeah. I just documented it. That's if you have a journey, document your journey, turn it into a book. That's what this is.
Cool.
So, and then from this, other books came out. And then I've had a love of maps for my whole life. I travel, I just love maps. Anything with a map, I love. And so I drew I drew the entire world, United States, countries, continents, everything over a period of time. Made it as a product that I sold as clip art. Yep. And then I turned those into coloring books.
So now, are those available? Is this a children's coloring book type of thing, or
actually,
or anybody?
It's they're on Amazon. They've been selling this is 10 years they've been selling. This has been a best-selling book on Amazon for 10 years.
Wow.
And but I have this is the world regional one. I just brought one, but I have one of U.S. states. I have one of European countries.
So if we wanted to find your book,
you just go under J.
Bruce
James
Jones
is my first name, so just J. Bruce Jones. Yeah.
J. Bruce Jones
on Amazon.
On Amazon, and will that show all the books?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amazon has a thing called the authors. When you click on your name, a little window will pop up, and you can see everything that somebody has.
So I didn't know you're an author, and I can't tell and describe to people. I actually can describe how lucky we have been to have Bruce choose Groton, coming from all these different areas, because he's done so much. I mean, to even run for and be elected council, and we all know how tough it can be being in politics. But outside of that, in Groton, he's also joined GOSA.
Yeah, I'm part of the Groton Open Space. It was one of the first groups that I joined when we came here. We came here knowing nobody. Like
Nobody.
the lady at True Value became the lady we knew the most, the
Yeah.
cashier, because we were going in there.
Everyone knows Lady at True Value. You got to go to True Value.
Got to go to True Value. And we knew nobody. And so my wife would just look through the little local papers that came. She said, let's go to this thing. It was the GOSA annual meeting.
Yep.
Okay, let's just go. We'll go see what it's like. And so you just show up. And we were like, oh, these are our people.
Yep.
Okay, so then I just started getting going and then getting involved. And so now I'm part of the sustainability, and you'll see me out there cutting grass and cutting trails. And
How long have you been in Groton now?
Be 6 years almost till next week. It'll be 6 years.
So if you lived in Groton for 40 years and you meet Bruce Jones, you might want to up your game, because here's a person that's been in Groton for 6 years, and I just thought you were here for longer. Again, I mean, we talk all the time, but we don't talk about each other's history,
Right.
Because it never seems like there's that kind of time in a day, and I wish more people would make more time to talk to people, because I think a lot of people. I learned a lot from you today just from talking in this short time. But you've done a lot already. You've served our community at a bunch of different levels, and maybe the biggest, I think, contribution has been a lot with GOSA, because
it's the most. I think it's the most direct impact that we've had, that I've had in the community. I mean, we really noticed it during COVID. I mean, we had good traffic, but when COVID came, the traffic just skyrocketed. And people were just so thankful. You'd meet people. I mean, we were out there cutting trails and cutting grass. You never see anybody. And then all of a sudden, now we see people all the time that are out there.
And has that slowed down? Or?
It's slowed down, but it's a nice mix of people all the way. So we see quite a few people. So it's.
I know when you talk to the restaurants, like the Spa, I talked to Gary, and he said, there were people saying, "Oh my God, our country's different. No one ever is going to eat inside again." And I said, that's not going to happen, because I mean, it is good. I have a bad memory and a short memory, so it makes me, so I don't dwell on things. I think I'm blessed to have that kind of memory. And a lot of people forgot about COVID already. When it comes time to eating inside or outside, even on the nice days when you're like, I would expect to see that full out there. Everyone's kind of going back into their.
They've kind of gone in. But certainly all the trails, and not just the GOSA trails. I mean, Groton is blessed with, state trails, Avalonia trails, town trails, and GOSA trails. And so we just have this great sort of system of these 4 interlocking trail systems.
And now some bicycle trails where they're actually making room on the highways. I think we have a project that's going on the Gold Star Bridge right now. I tend to believe in my heart of hearts that we could reduce the size of the Gold Star Bridge by putting an actual bike lane.
Put a bike lane on the side.
With a divider. The one that when you were going over it, you'd actually look out south and see New London and Groton, because the access to and what happens on that walking path on the other bridge, on the North Bridge, is just dangerous.
You certainly see it. This summer I was able to be in England and in Portugal, and the use of bicycles in these places is just huge. I mean, it's just, especially downtown.
And I think when people, whenever you say in America that we want to build a bicycle trail, overwhelmingly people say, who uses bicycles? And people, I think, would use them if they feel like they could be safe and operate them, or if they can actually get to a destination. Because if it's to ride a bicycle to work, it can't be what's happening from New London to Groton now. Because we have people riding scooters, and look, these people, when you see them on a scooter, they're trying to get to work, and any by all means necessary, and they do it, but it doesn't make for a safe way to do it. But that's what GOSA has been about. That's what I think this town trail thing with the bicycles has been really about. And we're down to like 30 seconds.
Yeah,
this is
good enough.
And I knew this was going to go fast. All right, guys, we're out of time. So next Thursday, I'll see you guys. They have a special here. It's going to be an open house here on next Thursday, and maybe I'll be going live to see what happens here. Thanks again to the crew and everyone. Thanks for coming out on the show.
Thank you, Joe.
I'll have you on again, maybe.
All right.
Great show.